Bloody signs of Satan. You know the first rule of abandoned buildings. No graffiti, run. So in my story, there were graffiti, but they indicated danger. I was 15 years old. I often climbed through various abandoned places. My friend and I wanted to explore an abandoned place on the outskirts of the city. We stocked up on a knife, flashlights, light bulbs, and necessary first aid items. We agreed to meet at 21.30. After all, it's scarier and more interesting at night. We met, and a friend said, "You can wait for my friends." I didn't mind, we waited. They were gone for about an hour, but they still came. I was the first to enter the abandoned building. I saw a symbol with an asterisk in a circle and an inverted cross. We didn't know what it meant. I saw a note on the floor. I took it to read, and it said, "Invoco te, Deum meum, Satanam meam, molabo tibi coitus populorum." But we didn't plan to retreat. We looked at our feet. After all, in an abandoned place, there are always syringes, fittings, and sharp knives lying around. We went up to the third floor. We smelled rot. We put on our masks and explored. In the middle of the corridor, we saw a light. There were people in red cloaks. They spoke in an incomprehensible language. And there we saw a tied-up man. He tried to scream, to get out, but his attempts were to no avail. The strange people stopped saying something, and one took a knife and stabbed the man to death. After that, they began to disperse, and one saw us. He shouted, "Witnesses, catch them." We started running as fast as we could. We were very scared. Most got out, but one slipped under on the way out and was grabbed. We couldn't save him. Everyone went home, and the next day our friend was declared missing. Since then, I have a note that I picked up from an abandoned place. Something is creepy about my friend's family. I had a friend named Amy. She was a shy person, but I was always there to encourage her, or I helped her get things when she was sheepish at times. We were really close with each. Despite being in different grades, we managed to meet each other. One day, we were texting on the phone when she spontaneously texted me an invite to a dinner party that was going to start in the evening. I accepted the invite and told the punctual time I would be arriving at. When it was 6:40 p.m., I got out of bed and took a warm shower. After that, I dried myself up and wore my clothes. Then, I curled my hair and wore diamond earrings to match my outfit. I was so excited. I then hailed a cab by the sidewalk and told my location. While I was traveling, I texted her on the way. After a while, I arrived there. The house looked really strange, and the heat place was creepily quiet and cold, but I was sure I was gonna meet nice people. Well, it was something I didn't expect. Nobody greeted me, only Amy. The rest was staring down at me coldly. "Oh, so you are the one?" her mother said. "Yes, I'm her friend," I replied with a smile. She rudely smiled and left. I quietly sat on the couch, talking to Amy. On my right, I could see a couple of smokers staring at me. Finally, dinner was served. I arrived at the dinner table, and everyone was full on staring at me. And there was something fishy about the food. "Excuse, what did you cook?" I asked. Her sister looked angry and smiled. "Why? It's fried rice." "It smells weird," I said. "Is this beef?" "Oh, right, you are Indian. Here, let me get you the chicken salad." She got up from her spot and passed me the salad. It was a sheepish moment for me. It was 8 o'clock. Dinner finished. I was talking to Amy at the balcony. Then I experienced a sudden blackout. Then I woke up. Right, I was asleep. I was in the same dress. I jumped out of bed and ran downstairs. It was creepy. The mother in the kitchen seemed like a crazy lady chopping meat, her eyes in dark circles underneath, and her siblings, her smoking. "You are a little shit, aren't you?" they said. I ignored it and ran away in a cab. It was so weird. How could she be leaving with them? My neighbor's basement is hiding something awful. I naturally fell into babysitting around the age of 14. Through friends and family, I got leads for babysitting to score some cash, which definitely beat having to work at a restaurant. The job had its ups and downs, but overall, it wasn't a bad gig at all. Yet, as many good experiences as I had, they were all eclipsed by one night. A new family in town talked to my dad at work, and it turned out that they needed a babysitter. I happily took the job and found myself watching their 10-year-old boy a couple of weeks later. There was nothing out of the ordinary about the family themselves. They were the model citizens of suburban America, complete with the white picket fence and blue shutters. Nothing about their house was strange or even unique. Their son, Avery, was very mild-mannered and polite. Even their car was basic. Not that these were bad things, but I expected it to be a very boring night. What I did not expect was the uncomfortable, inexplicable feeling that I got when I set foot in the house. A chill ran through me, but there was no draft. I rubbed my arms as I gazed at their staircase as we passed. They gave me a brief tour of the house before they left a note of instructions and all the usual information I expected from a job. While trying to figure out what was making me so uneasy about the place, I noticed something about their basement door when I passed it. A padlock was placed on the door, along with a deadbolt in place. "Any questions?" the father asked, as my mind was pulled out of my curiosity. "No, sir. Everything looks great." So they left, and Avery and I played some games before I made dinner. A couple of times, I thought I heard Avery call me into the den. Both times, I found him sitting on the couch in what most recognize as the TV zombie state. He denied having called me, and I went back to making dinner. After the third time, I told Avery it wasn't funny and that he should stop. "I'm not doing anything. I'm just watching TV." His voice went to that higher tone of pleading, sounding desperate for me to believe him. "Avery, I know it's my first time, and sometimes you want to test things out, but I'm trying to get dinner ready, so if you call me again, I'm not checking on you, okay?" I didn't say anything. The child glared at the TV with a pouting face, and I began to feel bad. As many times as I've heard lies, I was starting to sense that he was telling the truth. So what was I hearing? "Hey, it's fine. I'm not mad. Promise." Avery turned his head back towards me, seeming to test if I was the one fibbing now. "How about I let you stay up a little later if we forget about it? Do you really promise?" With our contractual pinkies interlocked, spirits were raised again, and I was able to finish dinner. Although I didn't finish without hearing Avery's voice calling me once more. I ignored it, and when Avery didn't mention it at dinner, I figured it was him fooling around again. The whole time we chatted as we ate, I couldn't help but feel that something was not right about this house. As hard as I tried to not look, my eyes kept diverting to the heavy padlock and chain on the basement door. Curiosity got the best of me, and as we were cleaning up, I couldn't help but ask, "So Avery, what's the deal with the basement door?" "What do you mean?" His words did not match his demeanor. It was obvious he didn't make eye contact as he forced his sentence out. "Come on, you know what I mean. The padlock, chain, and deadbolt. You all have dangerous chemicals down there. Avery's face grew paler and he stared at the wall for a moment. Hey, it's okay. You don't have to tell me. I didn't mean to. Dad said no one can talk about it anymore. This really threw me off, and I couldn't possibly finish my sentence now. A thick veil of tension materialized between us. So you guys aren't allowed to talk about it? Avery shook his head. Okay, that's cool. No big deal. It was nothing but a big deal. Was their dad doing something illegal down there? Or was it something strange that no one could do anything about it? Maybe their dad was in denial about something going on. There were way too many questions going through my head now. Hey, how about we put on a movie? Yeah, sure. What am I saying? Everyone likes movies, right? Now excited, we decided on a fun movie that quickly pulled our minds away from the mysterious basement door. Well, that's not entirely true. Maybe Avery was distracted, but it was killing me. As we ate popcorn, I couldn't help but watch Avery, wondering what was going on in that little head of his. Was there something awful going on in the house, and there was nothing I could do to stop it? Or maybe the dad was just... Stop, I told myself inwardly. Mulling over it all endlessly was not doing myself any favors. So the movie ended, and I ushered the drifting child to his bed. Now, the house was all to myself until 12, so I had a good 3.5 hours to myself. Immediately, I began texting my friend to tell her all about the weird experience I was having that night. She dismissed it, saying that I was getting spooked by a new place. This annoyed me to no end. I'd been at bigger, way creepier looking houses, but never got weird vibes like this. Then, I heard it. Stephanie. I went instantly still and listened intently. You didn't hear that, Steph. Just keep texting your friend and... There was no mistaking it this time. It was definitely coming from the basement. The acoustics couldn't have been from Avery upstairs. The voice sounded like a little girl's. In fact, I'm not even sure he could make his voice like that anyway. Slowly, I stood up from the couch and approached the door. Maybe like earlier, I was just hearing things. Maybe being creeped out by the house was starting to mess with my head. That made sense. Right? Stephanie? I jumped back from the door, almost wetting myself in the process. There was no way I could dismiss it as anything else now. There was a little girl's voice coming from the basement. Hello? I responded. I couldn't keep my voice from shaking. Is this Stephanie? Yes, it's Stephanie. Can you help me? Who are you? Why are you locked in the basement? My name is Meredith Rosenberg. They kept me locked up for a long time now. The police were almost onto them, and that's why they moved. Can you get me out? A cold shock washed over me and made it hard to respond. Was I actually babysitting for a family that kept a little girl prisoner? Oh my God. How long have you been locked up with them? Ever since I can remember. I felt somehow hot and cold at the same time and wanted to throw up. This all made sense now with what Avery had told me. Of course his father didn't want him talking about the door. I just need to find the keys, and I can. They're hidden in the garage underneath the metal shelf. It's inside a magnetic key holder. Okay, just hold tight. In a panic to free the poor girl, I darted into the garage and began feeling the space underneath the bottom shelf. And sure enough, there was a magnetic key holder there. Running back, I popped the key holder open and began to insert the key into the padlock. Did you find it? Yes, sweetie, I'm almost there. Oh, please hurry. Sometimes they come home early. This sent me into even more of a rush, and I barely managed to fumble the key into the padlock. I finally heard the successful click of the padlock, pulled the chain off, and slid the deadbolt to the right. "I'm coming, Meredith. Hold on." I turned the doorknob and threw open the door, only to be met with darkness. Now full of adrenaline, my hands felt around for the light switch. Finally finding my purchase, I flicked the light on, which lit up most of the stairs. "Meredith?" I called out. Unless I was remembering it wrong, it sounded like her voice was just on the other side of the door a minute ago. In fact, it was quite strange that she wasn't waiting for me at the top of the stairs. Wouldn't you immediately run out of a basement that you were locked in for God knows how long? "I'm down here," the little girl's voice called out. Judging from the distance, it sounded like she was calling from somewhere at the bottom of the stairs. My brain suddenly began piecing all the details of this interaction together, and the idea of going down into the basement became absolutely terrifying. "Meredith, you can come up now. The door's open." I couldn't hide the tremor in my voice. Why I was scared of a little girl was beyond me, but much like the house itself, something felt very wrong here. "I hurt my leg. Ow. When you said you were getting the key, I went back down to get some of my things and got hurt." The sounds of pain filled me with sorrow, but an invisible force was holding me back from taking another step into that basement. "Can you move? Maybe pull yourself up on the railing?" "I can't. It hurts too bad." "Okay, sweetie, what's wrong? Won't you help me?" It's just really dark down there, and I don't want to get hurt too. Is there any way you can get to the stairs? Any way at all?" I tried to sit up, but my shoulder hurts too much. "I thought you said your leg got hurt." The words hung in the air like a noose. It was only after I said it that I realized there were several things seriously wrong about all of this. A question popped into my head I didn't even have time to think about until now. How did she know where the padlock key was? A deathly silence took up the space between me and wherever this girl was. It was a standoff, and I couldn't think of anything else to say. There were questions I could ask her to figure out what was happening, but I felt that her answers weren't going to be honest. Perhaps at this point, the truth was too frightful to know. "Meredith, are you still there?" It was a stupid question, but it was the only thing my mind could conjure. The additional silence only unnerved me, so I decided to try and get a better look. Fishing my phone out of my pocket, I clicked on the flashlight. It didn't do me any good because of the awful range, so I did the one thing I'd already told myself not to do. I took a step forward. Maybe it was the angle of the stairs or the lighting, but that one step gave me more information than I ever wanted to know. I caught a better view of the bottom step, which was essentially a ledge into a black abyss. Something looked different on this step, but it took a second to register what it was. The step was wet, a pool of some unknown liquid overflowing into the darkness of the basement. I knew for sure that the father hadn't mentioned any flooding, so it would be way too random for that. So I stood there, watching in frozen curiosity as the puddle then suddenly rippled, and I realized the abominable truth. It wasn't water, it was a puddle of saliva, and something was drooling into it from the dark.